The celebrity world is shaking tonight, not trembling, not rumbling, but shattering because Jim Jones has officially done the unthinkable. After 20 years of love, loyalty, reality TV tears, proposals, breakups, makeups, and 1,000 promises whispered on and off camera, Jim Jones just showed up at Chrissy Lampkin's door with divorce papers in his hand. No warning, no speech, just cold eyes, a sealed envelope, and a truth so explosive, it's already ripping the internet in half. Witnesses say Chrissy opened the door, expecting a quiet morning. Instead, she found the man she fought the world for, the man she built a brand with, standing frozen, holding documents that spelled the end. And he didn't say a word. He didn't have to, because the DNA results he uncovered in secret already said everything. Yes, DNA. The test she never wanted him to take. The test she begged production not to mention. The test that didn't just expose a lie, it exposed an entire double life. Sources close to the situation say Jim read the results once, twice, then sat in silence for hours before making the coldest decision of his career. And when Chrissy realized what he finally discovered, she reportedly whispered 6 words that sent fans into a global meltdown. "I did what I had to." What does that mean? What was she hiding? And why did Jim walk away now? Because this isn't just a breakup. This is betrayal carved into court documents. And the story is about to explode. The moment Jim Jones stepped out of that black SUV and walked toward Chrissy's front door, the entire universe shifted. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains. A delivery driver froze mid-step. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Because everyone recognized the look on his face, a look colder than betrayal, heavier than heartbreak, sharper than any argument caught on Love and Hip Hop. This wasn't a man stopping by to talk. This wasn't a man coming home. This was a man who had seen the truth and had come to end everything built on a lie. Chrissy opened the door expecting the usual tension, maybe, but something fixable with tears, charm, or deflection. But Jim didn't give her a chance. He didn't greet her. He didn't step inside. He simply raised the envelope between them, a silent, devastating declaration that the life they'd built together had run out of time. She tried to speak his name, but the words died in her throat. Because she saw it. She recognized the envelope. The thickness. The seal. The unmistakable weight of consequences. Divorce papers. The reality hit her so hard, she had to grip the doorframe to steady herself. But Jim didn't waver. His eyes didn't soften. He had spent hours rehearsing this moment in silence, and now that it was here, he delivered it with the finality of a judge's gavel. He never imagined this day would come, but the DNA results had changed everything. Because what he learned wasn't just shocking, it was annihilating. He had ordered the paternity test in secret, using a private contact outside of VH1, outside of their shared circle, outside of anyone Chrissy could influence. He didn't want producers involved. He didn't want Mona involved. He didn't want anyone shaping the story but the truth itself. And when the truth arrived, it hit like an earthquake. The child Chrissy once claimed was his, wasn't. And the child she claimed miscarried? That child wasn't lost at all. Alive, hidden, documented. Jim didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just sat there, holding 2 sheets of paper that rewrote the last decade of his life. And when he finally looked in the mirror, he realized the man staring back at him wasn't devastated. He was done. Completely, utterly done. So he started gathering everything. Receipts, timelines, photos, burner phone logs, text threads she thought she'd erased. Every discrepancy. Every odd detail he had ignored. Every moment he'd blamed himself instead of her. He stacked the truth like evidence. And the more he uncovered, the more he realized this wasn't a slip. This wasn't a mistake. It was a strategy. A long-term, carefully engineered deception wrapped in emotional manipulation and reality TV theatrics. Witnesses later said Jim walked into court for what was supposed to be a simple production dispute hearing with the cold precision of a man carrying his own autopsy report. Chrissy was already seated, scrolling through her phone, oblivious. Until she looked up and saw the envelope. Her entire face shifted, not shock, not guilt, but dread. Real dread. Because she knew exactly which secret had been exposed. The courtroom fell silent when Jim placed the papers on the table. He didn't sit beside her. He didn't look at her. He simply slid the envelope forward and let the judge open it. The judge's eyes widened almost instantly. Even he wasn't ready for what he saw. 2 DNA tests, 2 different labs, 2 different dates, both proving one thing. Jim Jones was not the father. Gasps erupted. A journalist in the back dropped her pen. Even Chrissy's lawyer blinked twice, trying to hide his panic. But the loudest reaction came from the one person who always knew the truth in her bones. Mama Jones. She jumped to her feet in the gallery, pointing at Chrissy with fury boiling in her voice. I told you she was lying. I told him. I told everybody. Security rushed in. A monitor fell to the floor. The judge tried to regain order, but the courtroom had already dissolved into chaos. And still, Chrissy didn't deny a thing. She just stared straight ahead, legs crossed, voice level, and said the 6 words that cracked the internet in half. I did what I had to. Her voice didn't tremble. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She stated it like it was justified. Like betrayal was survival. Jim's hands curled into fists. Because what kind of person lies about life and death? Who lies about a child? Who scripts a miscarriage? Who weaponizes motherhood for TV ratings? The kind of person who believes she can shape reality to her advantage. And the proof kept coming. Within hours, leaked voicemails surfaced online. Chrissy's voice, unmistakably hers, telling her publicist, if the second test comes back negative, stall him, say the lab lost it, I just need to get through the reunion. The internet exploded. Millions of fans who once defended her turned instantly. The comments were vicious. Accusations flew, hashtags trended, memes flooded timelines faster than producers could delete old clips. But the leaks weren't done. Court documents revealed Chrissy paid a clinic in New Jersey $7,000 for discrete results processing. Not once, twice, and both payments aligned with the dates of the paternity tests. Then came the ultrasound footage Chrissy had posted years ago to build emotional sympathy. But the metadata exposed it had been reused from a different pregnancy entirely. She had built an empire on smoke and mirrors. But the darkest twist came next. Because while Jim was grieving a child he thought he lost, Chrissy wasn't grieving at all. She was hiding the truth, hiding the timelines, hiding the man she was texting the entire time, Cameron. Not a stranger, not a fling, not a random rumor. Cameron, Jim's former Dipset brother. A hotel receipt surfaced. 2 toothbrushes, 2 room keys. 1 surveillance clip from Miami showing Chrissy knocking on room 804, wearing a hoodie, hair tied back, stepping inside the room. Cam opened for her, and then came the assistant. Witness C. 3 years working with Chrissy. 3 years holding secrets that were finally too heavy to carry. She testified that Chrissy staged pregnancy photos for promos, deleted texts before Jim came home, rehearsed tearful monologues for reunion specials, and even wrote scripts for scenes weeks in advance. I just need sympathy shots before the reunion. Get baby clothes. I'll fake the bump. The courtroom gasped. Chrissy stared straight ahead. Jim stared at the floor, numb. And then the final clip of the day played a voice memo from a producer backstage during Love and Hip Hop. Men don't need the full truth. They need a story. The more mystery, the longer they stay. The judge was speechless. Fans outside were losing their minds. Influencers streamed live reactions. Hashtags multiplied. Even celebrities chimed in, some siding with Jim, others stunned, speechless. But the day wasn't finished. Because just as court recessed, Jim's lawyer stood and said, Your Honor, we are submitting one final piece of evidence tomorrow. It concerns Miss Lampkin's financial activity and another man. The court gasped again. Chrissy's eyes widened in panic. Jim walked out without looking back, and the world waited for the next blow. By the time the second day of court began, the world had already chosen sides. Twitter was a battlefield. Instagram was an autopsy. And TikTok was a full-blown crime lab dissecting every leak, every timeline, every screenshot tied to Chrissy's deception. Influencers were doing minute-by-minute breakdowns, and former castmates were suddenly posting cryptic quotes like they'd been sitting on the truth for years. Even rival reality stars chimed in, one posting, "Some people get caught, some people get exposed." And everyone knew exactly who she meant. Chrissy arrived at court with dark glasses, a stiff jaw, and a silence that looked less like strength and more like shock. Not the emotional kind, the strategic kind, the kind of silence people adopt when their lies are crumbling faster than they can build new ones. Jim entered 5 minutes later. Not even glancing at her, his energy shifted entirely. Yesterday, he walked in with heartbreak. Today, he walked in with purpose. A quiet, controlled fire that made the entire gallery lean back in their seats. This wasn't a man seeking answers anymore. This was a man ready to finalize the truth. The judge stepped in, called for order, and Jim's lawyer wasted no time. "Your Honor, we have obtained additional evidence relevant to Miss Lampkin's pattern of deception." That word pattern hung in the air like poison. Chrissy's lawyer jumped up instantly. "Your Honor, we object to any last-minute submissions." The judge cut him off with a look. "If it has been verified, it will be reviewed." He had no idea what was coming. The projector flickered to life again, and the courtroom braced itself. At first, it looked like spreadsheets, columns of transactions, dates, vendors, unexplained charges. But when the camera zoomed in, the tension spiked. Quiet Discreet LLC, an anonymous Delaware corporation tied directly to Chrissy's business manager. 4 years of quiet deposits, money pulled from joint accounts, transfers labeled creative consulting, production planning, digital rights fees, all conveniently timed around filming seasons and storyline negotiations. Jim stiffened. Chrissy's eyes widened. Because this wasn't emotional betrayal anymore. It was financial betrayal, the kind courts don't forgive. "Miss Lampkin," the judge said slowly, "can you explain these unauthorized transfers?" Chrissy inhaled sharply but gave no answer. Her lawyer stepped in, voice trembling. "Your Honor, these could be clerical errors, mislabeled." "Enough," the judge snapped. "The totals exceed 6 figures." Gasps. Even Jim looked briefly stunned before his face hardened again. But Jim's lawyer wasn't done. "We also have evidence that Miss Lampkin manipulated production edits to protect her narrative. Testimony from a VH1 intern confirms she ordered the removal of scenes showing Mr. Clearcut Jones questioning the pregnancy timeline." The gallery erupted into whispers. Chrissy's hand shook slightly, the first crack in her armor. Then the judge asked the question no one expected. "Is Mr. Giles present?" A ripple passed through the room. "Cameron." Within seconds, his attorney stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and approached the bench like a man holding dynamite. "We would like to introduce additional footage relevant to the emotional, financial, and relational misconduct at hand." Chrissy's breath hitched. The video appeared instantly. A dimly lit hotel lobby. Atlanta. 2021 rap event. Chrissy and Cam standing close, far too close, whispering. The audio was grainy but clear enough. Chrissy's voice. "He believes me. Just hold off until the next season's locked." Cam's reply. "I told you this would blow up eventually." Chrissy. "Not if we time it right." The screen went black. The silence was deafening. Jim's eyes closed, his hand covering his mouth. Not in shock, in realization. Pieces falling into place, why certain arguments suddenly ended, why certain moments felt staged, why Chrissy always seemed a step ahead of every storyline. She didn't just create narratives, she orchestrated outcomes. The judge exhaled slowly. "Miss Lampkin, is that your voice in the recording?" Chrissy didn't speak. He repeated the question. She swallowed and whispered, "Yes." Another explosion of whispers filled the room. Then Witness C walked forward again, trembling but determined. "I wasn't going to say more," she said, voice cracking. But the truth needs to come out. Chrissy's head shot up. The judge allowed her to speak. Chrissy didn't just fake pregnancy photos. She rehearsed storylines. She'd tell production who she planned to argue with, cry to, manipulate. She once told me, "A good lie pays better than the truth." Someone in the gallery gasped out loud. Witness C continued. She said Jim would never marry her unless she forced his hand, that the baby storyline was leverage, that if he didn't commit, she'd flip the script and make the world pity her instead. Jim's jaw tensed, but his eyes stayed fixed on Chrissy. Witness C wiped a tear. She planned every emotional beat like it was TV, but Jim wasn't acting. He actually believed her. The judge sighed, rubbing his forehead. This is extensive. But the worst was yet to come. Jim's attorney stepped forward again. One final piece of evidence, Your Honor, submitted under seal. A verified recording from Miss Lampkin's cloud backup. Chrissy's eyes widened in terror. She knew exactly what was coming. The courtroom speakers hissed, and then her voice filled the room, calm, deliberate, cold. Men don't need the truth. They need a story that makes them stay. A few seconds of silence. Then, if Jim ever finds out about Cam, it's over. So I'll tell whatever story I need to tell. Chrissy's body sagged as though her bones had dissolved. Jim stared at her like he was looking at a ghost, a stranger, wearing the face of the woman he once loved. The judge leaned back, stunned. Miss Lampkin. She didn't answer. Her lawyer tried. Your Honor, if we could. No, the judge snapped. We cannot excuse this. Then came the twist no one saw coming. Jim stood, slowly, calmly, with a clarity that silenced the entire room. There's one more thing. Chrissy's head jerked up. The gallery held its breath. Jim reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope thinner than the divorce papers, but infinitely more dangerous. My team hired a private investigator, he said quietly. And he found documentation that someone else has been financially supporting Miss Lampkin for the past 5 years. Chrissy shook her head violently. No, Jim, don't. He placed the envelope on the judge's bench. Inside were bank statements, receipts, cash transfers, and a name that rattled the judge so hard he verbally confirmed it. Miss Lampkin, is this accurate? She covered her face, shaking. Jim didn't look at her, but he spoke one last time. You didn't just betray me. You built your survival on my destruction. The judge called recess. Reporters flew out of the courtroom like missiles. Chrissy stayed frozen, and Jim walked away without turning back. But the cliffhanger came seconds later, a notification flashing across every journalist's phone at the same time. Anonymous whistleblower drops new documents. Chrissy was never acting alone. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was a conspiracy, and the next hearing would expose the mastermind behind it. The third day of the hearing didn't begin with whispers. It began with silence, thick, suffocating, anticipatory. The kind of silence that happens before a verdict, before a bomb drops, before a truth too heavy for the human heart finally claws its way into the light. Reporters gathered like vultures. Fans camped outside with signs. Security doubled. Even the judge walked in slower than usual, as if preparing himself for whatever fresh disaster was about to unfold. Because overnight, a new leak hit the internet. A folder of documents. Anonymous source. Time-stamped. Authenticated. The title of the drop was only 3 words. She wasn't alone. It spread like a virus. Social media imploded. Comment sections lit up. YouTubers scrapped their scheduled uploads and went live, faces pale, eyes wide, repeating the same question. Who helped Chrissy pull this off? Inside the courtroom, Chrissy looked like a ghost wrapped in designer fabric. Her hair was neat, but her eyes were shattered. Her hands kept twitching, as if trying to grab pieces of a life slipping through her fingers. She wasn't the ice-cold strategist anymore. She wasn't the love and hip-hop queen. She was a woman cornered by the truth. Jim entered moments later. Calm, collected, devastatingly composed. He didn't sit next to his lawyer at first. He just stood there for a moment, scanning the room, taking in every face, every energy shift. every tremor. When his eyes landed on Chrissy, he didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't soften. He had finally accepted the ending. The judge called the court to order. Jim's lawyer stepped forward with confidence sharpened into a weapon. Your Honor, the anonymous documents submitted overnight have been authenticated. We request permission to present them. Chrissy's lawyer scrambled to object, but the judge barely acknowledged him. Permission granted. Proceed. The projector lit up once again. At first, it was a series of emails, familiar names, familiar patterns. But then a second name appeared beside Chrissy's. A producer. A longtime VH1 overseer. Someone with the power to edit, manipulate, erase, rewrite, and shape narratives. Someone Chrissy trusted. Someone who helped hide the truth. The gallery gasped. Jim leaned forward. Chrissy's face crumpled, as if her final layer of armor had been peeled away. The emails were explicit. Need to shift the sympathy arc, Jim. Must stay the villain. We can bury the real father storyline if Chrissy commits to the season. Use the miscarriage footage. It will silence suspicion. Jim can't know. This keeps him emotionally invested. The courtroom shook with whispers. But the next email detonated the room. Have Cam delay his statement. We need him neutral until the reunion. Cam. Again. Always hovering like a shadow in someone else's marriage. But now there was proof he wasn't just a bystander. Jim's lawyer clicked again. The next slide showed Zelly transfers between Chrissy and the producer. Thousands of dollars. Labeled under the most damning phrase imaginable. Quiet narrative coordination. Chrissy's jaw trembled. She gripped the table so hard her knuckles turned white. Then the final file appeared. A contract, signed by Chrissy. Co-signed by the producer. Outlining a plan to create a pregnancy storyline for 2 seasons, in exchange for a spin-off and back-end points. Jim closed his eyes, just once, like the revelation punched him in the soul. But the biggest betrayal hadn't dropped yet. The judge's voice cut through the tension. Miss Lampkin, this document indicates you and the producer orchestrated a false narrative for financial gain. Is this forged? No, she whispered. It's real. The courtroom erupted. But Jim wasn't reacting to the contract. He was staring at the last line. Underlined in bold. Outcome goal. Secure Jim's emotional compliance for engagement storyline. That was it. The death blow. The judge demanded order, but chaos had already taken over. Chrissy's lawyer begged for recess. Denied. Witness C sobbed quietly in the back. The stylist who testified earlier stared at the floor. And Jim finally spoke, his voice steady, deadly, heartbreaking. So you didn't want marriage. You wanted control. Chrissy couldn't look at him, couldn't speak, couldn't defend herself. Because silence was the only honesty she had left. Then Jim's lawyer delivered the coup de grace. Your Honor, we have one more recording. The courtroom froze. Another recording? Chrissy looked like she might faint. The clip began softly, background noise, a restaurant, faint music, then Chrissy's voice. If Jim leaves, the storyline dies. If the storyline dies, the checks stop. So no, he's not leaving. Not until I'm done with him. The room inhaled sharply. But then came the part no one survived intact. Cam's voice responded. He still doesn't know about the kid. Chrissy laughed a small, dark, chilling laugh. No. And he never will. Jim's hand dropped from the table. Even the judge looked shaken. Because this wasn't just betrayal. It was cruelty. And then another voice entered, someone the entire world recognized instantly. The producer. Just stall the DNA thing, he said. We can spin it at the reunion. Every jaw in the courtroom dropped. Chrissy hadn't acted alone at all. This was a conspiracy. A manipulation machine built on lies, footage, edits, and secrets, all revolving around Jim, all profiting off his emotional destruction. When the recording ended, Chrissy broke. She didn't cry softly. She collapsed, shoulders shaking, gasping for air. The mask was gone, the power evaporated. She was an exposed nerve in a room full of witnesses. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she sobbed. I didn't mean Jim, please. But Jim stood, slowly, like a man carrying the weight of his own resurrection. "I gave you 20 years, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And you gave me a script." Chrissy reached for him. He stepped back. The judge took control, hammering down the gavel. "Based on the evidence presented, the accounts will remain frozen, the investigation expanded, and the petition for immediate dissolution is granted." It was over. But the final twist came the moment Jim walked out of the courtroom. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, questions flew, and then another black SUV pulled up. A man stepped out holding an envelope. An envelope with Jim Jones's name on it. He handed it to Jim and whispered, "It's about the other child." Jim froze. Chrissy, being escorted by security, heard it too. She screamed, "No, no, don't open that." But Jim already had. His face drained of color. Reporters surged forward. The man tried to walk away, but someone recognized him. A name rippled through the crowd like lightning. The real father. And the world realized. This wasn't the end of the scandal. This was the beginning of the aftershock. The betrayal wasn't over. The truth hadn't finished speaking. And the next reveal was going to burn everything to the ground. Before you leave this video, hear this clearly. The story is nowhere near finished. What you just witnessed is only the surface layer of a scandal so deep, so tangled, so dangerously volatile that the next leak could rewrite everything we think we know about Jim Jones, Chrissy Lampkin, and the betrayal that shook an entire culture. That envelope handed to Jim outside the courthouse? That wasn't closure. That was a warning, the beginning of a second wave, a darker chapter, the kind of twist that turns a scandal into a legacy-ending implosion. And if you're not locked in with us right now, you are going to miss the moment the next bomb drops. So do not wait. Do not hesitate. Hit that like button right now so this truth spreads faster than the lies ever did. Drop your theories in the comments. Who is the real father? What was Chrissy hiding? And how deep does this conspiracy actually go? Every comment helps push this story further into the spotlight. And believe me, the insiders are watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you are standing on the outside of the biggest celebrity meltdown of the decade. Turn on your notifications immediately. The next leak, the next confession, the next courtroom twist could hit tonight, tomorrow, or in the next hour. And when it does, you need to be here first. Stay ready, stay watching, because the next revelation isn't just coming, it's already on its way.